Please welcome Schneider Electric Chairman and CEO, Jean-Pascal Tricoire.
Buenos días a todos. Good morning to all of you. Thank you. Muchas gracias. I'm not going to do the flamenco. I'm sure you're going to be very disappointed. I'm not going to do the drums. It's far too difficult for me. But I would like to thank you. Thank you all for being here today. We know that your time is extremely precious. It's extremely important, and the fact that you come here and dedicate 2 days of your time to exchange with our teams shows how important our relationship is. I see a very full room. Actually, welcome to the people in this room. Welcome to the people in these theaters outside the room that we have filled with people who couldn't find a spot in this room. And I'm sure that this attendance is also due to the great characteristics of Barcelona. So you've seen that. This is the energy of Barcelona. Well, Barcelona is a city that never stops. Which other city in the world where you can work in the center of the city and have lunch and dinner on the beach and then never stop during the night because everything is keeping on going? Thank you, Barcelona. This is one of the great places that we are ready to go for the next 2 days. And more seriously, for us, it was making so much sense to do this meeting in Spain, because Spain has already been a great organization of Schneider. We employ in Spain 4,000 people. We have here 7 factories. We have R&D in the country. We deal with a lot of international business from Spain. Together with other partners, we manage the logistics of our international from here. We are very happy to do this global innovation summit here in Barcelona. And for that also, I would like to especially thank the people who come from very far away to participate to this meeting. I know we have people coming from all over the world who took planes. And I've got great news for the people coming from America, South and North America. You will soon discover that in fact you are not jet lagged, because there is no early dinner like 6 o'clock here. Maybe it's a lunchtime at 6 o'clock. So for everybody coming from North and South America, it's great news. For the people like me coming from Asia, it's very bad news. But anyway, who cares about sleeping? Because we've got plenty of things we want to discuss during the day, and we've got plenty of things to see at night in Barcelona. And that means not much sleep, but in the morning, if you feel sleepy, every morning you're going to get the Spanish drummers, los despertadores, to wake you up and make sure that you are perfectly in good shape for the whole day. So that's about it. Really happy to be with you. In the next 40 minutes or so, what I would like to do is to kind of introduce those 2 days and give you the landscape of what we are trying to accomplish together. And first, I'd like to discuss what we do together every day. And what we do together every day is to innovate and to design digital solutions of energy and automation for efficiency and sustainability. And those seem very big words, but the world is turning. The world is really changing, and sustainability is becoming mainstream and core to all of our companies. And let me share a little bit of my experience, because I was last week in New York. I came actually straight from New York to here. And because last week was an important week, it was the so-called Climate Week, where a lot of companies converged to New York and tried to think together on how we can serve the cause of combating climate change, and make sure that we can still develop our companies and develop them even faster, but at the same time make sure we reduce our impact on the environment. And think about it, those things that you would have never seen 3 or 4 years ago, but last week you had 87 very large companies taking a strong commitment to what is called the 1.5 degree trajectory, which means taking the strong commitment to reduce your carbon footprint by more than 50%, or being carbon neutral within the next 10 years. And if you add that coalition that was born last week to the numerous other coalitions that were born in the last years, the EP 100 for energy productivity, the RE 100 for renewable, the EV 100 for electric mobility, and more of those things, those are thousands of companies which are taking a new position, a new attitude to sustainability, and trying to make the most of their energy and resources. And it's more than this, because all of those companies are speaking to their suppliers, to their partners, because you can't dissociate your own efficiency from the efficiency of our suppliers. Take our example, Schneider. Last week, we took the firm commitment to be carbon neutral by 2025, and to be net zero emission by 2030, and to be net zero emission on our whole supply chain in the next coming 3 decades, which seems a long horizon. In industrial life, it's not so long. Which means we're going to talk to all of our suppliers and make sure that our emissions is reducing and our efficiency is increasing all over the value chain. And this is something that we do, but this is something that all the companies which have taken those pledges are willing to do in the next coming years. And make no mistake, that make our companies more competitive, because efficiency and reduction of carbon emission is just reducing the waste and losses in our company and making them globally more efficient. So why is there so much focus at the moment about this? Well, the first point, and let's start really with the bad news. The bad news is that we are seriously on the wrong trajectory. And this is today why we see our kids and many other people on the planet starting to go on strike, demonstrate, and you see more green vote taking ground into our countries. Why are we on the wrong trajectory? Because if you look at climate change, it's all about emissions. And if you look about carbon emissions, it's only an issue of energy and efficiency. So 80% of emissions are due to energy consumption. And if you look at what the development has produced, it has been a multiplication of energy consumption by 10 in the last century. And if we don't do anything, it's going to be 4 times more in this century. This in a world where 60% of the way we manage energy is inefficient. So today, even after the Paris Agreement, and even after all the pledges of our company so far, we are more on a trajectory of 3.5 degrees, which we start to see everywhere the effects. Droughts, water shortages, migrations in Europe. We see hurricanes, typhoons happening around the world. So the effects of climate disorder are really starting to look and appear around the world. When we look at all of this, it means we have an energy issue. We are on an unbearable trend, and the system that we have today is inefficient, even with the fact that we are now aware there is a problem. So this is the bad news. And the good news is that we are the first generation that became aware that we were creating our own major problem for this century. And it's probably our biggest challenge, or collective challenge of our generation, and the other generations will hold us accountable if we don't do anything. So that was for the part of the bad news. Now let's go to the good news. As much as our generation is the first one that came to know of what was happening, well, there are 2 major technology disruptions which are happening today, which makes the resolution of the issue possible. The first one is the transition of energy, and we're going to speak about that later. And the second one is the transition of digital, which allows us to think and to be much more efficient than we used to be. And those two are not evolutions, they are major disruptions which are impacting the world of today, the world we live in, on all of us in this room, being specialists of energy and automation, are really in the core of those two, or at the center of those two disruptions. And those two disruptions allow us to think about a world which is much more efficient, much more sustainable, with two pillars: energy efficiency and process efficiency. And we think at Schneider that those things are impossible to dissociate. Because if you want to tackle your efficiency in energy, you need to tackle your process, you need to slow down machine at times, you need to switch off part of a building at times, and it's all linked to the usage of machine and buildings. And at the same time, if you want to run your process efficiently, you need to have an energy which is impeccable to sustain that process. So if you look at it, it's one equation, two faces on the same coin, which is total efficiency for a sustainable future. So if we dig a little bit deeper into the two parts of this equation, energy transition is possible. And it's possible, it's not a 100-year thing, we have probably 20 years to change the trajectory. Because otherwise, warming is a thing with a big lag, and when you start to warm, ice is melting, and the more ice is melting, the world is getting warmer, and they accelerate the whole chain, and therefore, we have to tackle the issue not in the next 50 or not in the next 70 or 80 years, it's about the next 20 years. And the topic is to emit 50% of what we emit today in the world. We see today that there is a path, is first using digital to save energy everywhere, 30 to 50% on everything we retrofit and renew in the world. And we just need to retrofit every year 2% of our building or 2% of our plants, so that in 20 years, we are going to have renewed 40 to 50% of the whole park. But what's important is that every time we touch a new place, we build a new place, or we revamp a new place, that we are targeting for 30 to 50% saving. And that should send the energy consumption not to another growth of 20 to 30% in the next 20 years, but it should send this trajectory to flatlining on the flat consumption, while we remind everybody that on Earth you still have 2 billion people who don't have a decent access to energy. So we have to provide energy to all of those people, and at the same time curb the consumption. The second priority is to electrify. On every projection of all institutes show it, the consumption of electricity will again double in the next coming 20 years. While the rest of energy will be close to flattening, or the total energy consumption will be flattening, electricity will keep growing. And why is that? Because electricity is the only vector of consumption that allows decarbonization. And when we do that, what we see today is that buildings are becoming more electric. IT, which is growing the fastest, is all using electricity. And of course, we are barely starting the biggest energy migration of the history of energy, which is the one of mobility, electric vehicle. But let's all think about that. We often speak about electricity. Today, electricity is only 20% of the world energy consumption. In the next coming 20 years, it will go to 40%. And for many of our companies in the room, it means also formidable opportunity, because we are specialists of electricity, and we shall collectively invest as much in electricity in the next 20 years as we did since the beginning of electricity in year 1900, roughly. So huge investment in that space. It's not going to be exactly the same kind of electricity, but this is where the investment in energy will take place. And the third point is, of course, to decarbonize, and Spain has been one of the pioneers in this field, and make sure that this electricity is coming from carbon neutral places, from renewable and storage, and that should go from 6% to 40% of the generation in the next coming 20 years. So save, electrify, decarbonize is the equation that we have in front of us. But it's not the only place where we can innovate for a better world in terms of environmental impact. And I want to share here a major disruption, a major breakthrough that we are presenting here, I would say officially for the first time, in this Innovation Summit of Barcelona. If you remember, the whole of medium voltage, which is the head of power distribution, have been working for ages based on SF6. And SF6 allowed us to protect many installations, but SF6 is not a good gas for environment. So engineers around the world had been working with obstination to find a way to get rid of SF6, and some companies came with other gases and other gas-based solution. Schneider comes today with a solution where we are clear that the best gas is no gas. And therefore, we are coming with a solution fully based on air, and we are presenting for the first time a full lineup of product which is air-based and replacing SF6 solutions. I really encourage you to go and see our specialists in the room, in the Innovation Hub, so that you can get more acquainted with the characteristics of this solution. Let's move on to the next part of innovation, which is digitization. Think about it. In the 90s, we all got our first contact with the internet. And I still remember it. And what internet did in the past 20 years was connect people to people. And it changed completely the way we work together and the way we live together. So at the beginning, we were just doing mails, or we were just reading our newspapers, and then there were many other functionalities that came on how to meet, how to communicate, how to order a taxi, a cab, and so on and so on. It changed everything. 5 years ago came the beginning of the episode 2 of the internet. And this episode 2 is about connecting machines to people and machines to machines, the Internet of Things. And that started the second episode of the revolution of the internet. So what internet has done to us people in the past 20 years will start now in our sectors, energy and automation, as we speak. And this is probably the second largest opportunity we have in our business. Think about it also that 5G comes on board in the next coming years, and 35% of the application of 5G will be dedicated to building and manufacturing environment. So if you put together that acceleration cycle of more products connected through IoT, going into big data as a capacity to store more data in one space, one data center, thanks to what is called the cloud, on the deployment of AI, which actually is accelerated because for the first time in history, you have masses of data gathered in one data center, while digitization of objects will revolution everything we do in our business. So put energy transition and digital transition together, and you've got the space for rethinking what we do together. Buildings being all electric, all digital, many of them benefiting from a decentralized and local generation, and industry being also mostly electric, of course all digital, and for many of them benefiting from a local capacity of generation. And this is probably our challenge or our best opportunity as we go forward in the next coming 20 years, is to design a new electric and new digital world around us, which is significantly different from what we've seen so far. So at Schneider, when we looked at this issue of sustainability, demanding much more efficiency, and catalyzed or enabled by technology, by those two transitions, we see a world where efficiency can be catalyzed by 4 integrations. And I'd like to share with you those 4 integrations, and start immediately by the first one that I just described the most in my first part, which is the one of energy and automation. As I was saying just before, we see those two as the same part of the two faces of the same coin. And when you reflect about the evolution of those two sectors, you see IT, which is sharing computing power between the cloud and now more and more the edge to make sure that computing is close to the edge. But you see in the field of energy also that same evolution of sharing the energy between the grid, which is a cloud of energy, on the edge, on microgrids, and those evolutions are going together, and they can only happen because there is a digital system that keeps them together. So we see energy and automation really intertwined and more intertwined as we go forward, because this is the only way to reach the full efficiency. And if you take a few examples here, I've taken voluntarily some electro-intensive examples in my presentation, because this is a place where the stake of electricity consumption is the highest. So let's take a first refinery in Malaysia, Petronas. I was there 2 weeks ago, where Petronas, for its newest refinery, the rapid refinery in Malaysia, has put together the full power automation, the full process automation into one repository, so that operators on control room can see all the alarms on one screen. They can make correlation about what is happening on the energy side, on the process side, and automate everything. On the collateral of more efficiency have been also more uptime, being able to predict issues or predict breakdowns if they can happen, and improve a lot on the maintenance costs, because suddenly the operators know exactly where they have to go, with which tool, and with which spare part. Another example I'd like to show here, which is an example with Acciona in Mexico, in Atoll which is a wastewater and water distribution system, where the issue was to the depollution of water, but also energy efficiency and reduction of carbon emission. And there again, putting on the one roof the energy system and the control system, where everybody knows that in fact water is just about energy, because if you've got enough energy, you can produce water, has enabled the customer and the user particularly to save on carbon emissions. So 2 examples in different systems of the first integration. The second integration, which has been allowed for the first time by the Internet of Things, is the integration from the endpoint of the shop floor to the control room on the cloud. And this has been really made possible by what I described before, that convergence of IoT, big data, and AI. Few examples here. Another oil and gas installation with BASF in Houston, where the main issue to be tackled was the management and the performance of assets. When you start to digitize your installation, you realize that your assets are not always managed to their capacity, and very often an asset breakdown will endanger your whole productivity on the production chain. So what they did is to combine, in this case, or to connect everything that on the shop floor to analytics, asset advisor, and that results in 100 variables per asset collected and analyzed, a 24/7 repository of everything which is happening on the shop floor, and of course avoiding every day 1 million of production costs that were happening before because of accidental failures or breakdowns. Another example to share to make it very practical is what we do in Valencia, what we don't do, but what we support in Valencia, what Mainzer, who is machine manufacturer for ceramic machines or ceramic production chains, where by using Machine Advisor coupled with EcoStruxure machine in an integrated manner, Mainzer managed to provide to its customers 30% of lesser energy consumption, and allowed also their customer to make 1 point more of profit by using the whole integration from the shop floor to the control room. And another example that I want to show you in a completely different environment, it is in Madrid. I know it's very dangerous in Spain to speak about Madrid when you are in Barcelona. But we are not speaking about soccer today. We are speaking about commercial and exhibition infrastructure. So IFEMA is one of the most famous exhibition centers in the world, and they have decided to really digitize the whole power distribution to be far better at their efficiency and the management of their facility. So you see here the benefit, 30% of energy consumption. There again, 24/7 control room, and of course, the payback is 3 years, paid mostly by the efficiency, which is a kind of typical payback when you use digital for more efficiency. And the best way, I think, to understand the benefits of that is to listen to our customers. So let's share together a video.
Lo que más me llamó la atención del sector ferial fue la cantidad de eventos congresuales, feriales, distinto tipo de actividades, lo cual te lleva a tener un reto continuo, adaptar unas instalaciones que están vivas. Nuestra visión es hacer de Madrid y también de España la referencia al escenario económico mundial desde el punto de vista del crecimiento empresarial, lo cual da lugar a multitud de oportunidades. Hola, me llamo Javier Martín y soy el director técnico de IFEMA. Como responsable de dirección técnica nos encargamos de la operación y mantenimiento de las instalaciones, entonces la respuesta al cliente y el conocer cuáles son los posibles fallos que se pueden producir en tiempo real para nosotros es absolutamente indispensable. Para dar solución a 2 congresos internacionales de una relevancia mundial, necesitábamos 1.630 cuadros dotados de una tecnología que actualmente no existía en el mercado. Anteriormente no podíamos conocer los consumos en tiempo real ni recibir la información. Con esta solución de Schneider Electric lo que conseguimos es un salto cualitativo en cuanto a la calidad de los cuadros eléctricos con los cuales estamos dotando a los clientes finales y nos permite una gestión desde el punto de vista de operación y mantenimiento mucho más eficaz y con datos absolutamente reales. La solución EcoStruxure Power nos ha permitido reducir el tiempo de respuesta en cualquier incidente que se pueda producir, cual redunda claramente en una mejora en la calidad de servicio. PowerTag es el equipo que tecnológicamente nos permite conocer la información de esos consumos en tiempo real. Esperamos recuperar la inversión en 3 años. La eficiencia energética es importante porque es el futuro de la sociedad y por lo tanto el futuro de las empresas. Dentro de las empresas, de los clientes que quieren venir a IFEMA, la eficiencia energética se convierte en un valor añadido.
Beautiful example of how digitization was used here in Madrid. And you see, it's not only about efficiency, the capacity also to make your space more flexible and offer more services. For anybody who has a real estate which is used by multiple users, the capacity to bill especially the consumption of each user and to know much better how the facilities are used. So that's about the second integration. And of course here, you will hear a lot during the next 2 days about EcoStruxure. We have been at Schneider absolutely obsessed since 1997. If you remember, that was when we proposed for the first time an architecture called Transparent Factory by the usage of the internet applied to the management of technical infrastructure. And our obsession was to make digitization accessible to all. So creating an architecture that would be plug and play and that our customers would be able to use to digitize in a simple manner their installations. So we worked during 10 years between 1997 to 2007 to learn better what it would mean, and in 2008 we came out with EcoStruxure version 1. And I know that everybody is speaking about digitization in the past 2 or 3 years, but this is late revelation. We've been working on it for the past 20 years. We've been officially on the market with commercial offers for the past 10 years. And EcoStruxure is pretty simple. If you want to keep it simple, it's 3 layers, connected products that can be easily digitized and brought to the digital environment. And there we have a very simple principle at Schneider, is that we want those products to be connectable not only to our systems, but to anybody's system. So they are developed on open standards. Second level is edge control, because local control has to be adapted to what you are doing precisely. And it's needed that human beings, people, are always in control of the local facility. So we want to have control on the spot, on the machine, in the building, or in the plant. And finally, by application, a setup of digital services and software, because data doesn't make much sense if you don't have analytics algorithm to give sense to data. And you can combine the 6 domains of EcoStruxure into solutions for buildings, data centers, industry, and infrastructure. Of course, we accompany that with cybersecurity services to make sure that our customers are putting together the right architecture for their application. So I'm going from there to the third integration. We started from the world of operation, connecting products into controls, into software, but when we were there, we realized that our customers were looking for more efficiency over the whole life cycle of their installation. Because if you look at what we do, from real estate to industry, when there is a construction happening, actually 30% of the cost is about reconstruction, about things which have not been designed properly for the operation, and we need or people arriving on the work site and litigating because things have not been coordinated properly. So we decided over time to build a portfolio, a complete portfolio of software, and 1.5 years ago built the reference company in the field of industrial software, company called Aviva, which is a company of daughter company of Schneider, which puts together the most complete software and digital thread for industrial manufacturing. So if you take one example here, it's Wilmar, which is the biggest sugar company in Australia. They needed to retrofit one of their big company to produce sugar, and they used our software to do dynamic simulation, and they squeezed the time of design and commissioning by 20%. But using the digital twin of the installation into the operation, reduced the uptime or increase the uptime and reduce the outtime to 0, and make sure also that everything being digitized, the operators, the workers, the technicians on the shop floor would have one repository for everything happening to the process. What we were convinced, and what drove us also, is to realize that when you speak about digitization of the industrial shop floor, there are many companies out there speaking about digitization. But when you are dealing with machines, when you are dealing with production, the goal is not digitization. The goal is to control machines. The goal is to optimize process. The goal is to increase productivity. So as important is the digital thread from design into commissioning, into operation and maintenance, but what we do with Aviva is to make sure that we are able to propose you the full integration into the physical world, having teams on the field that can speak about your application and co-design what you are doing, having teams of service able to help you to commission, having teams then able to come and help you during the whole maintenance of the installation. So going on to the fourth integration. Most of the companies in the world are managed site by site, and it's already, and most of those sites are already connected in most of the cases. Now you reach the real efficiency and you leverage really low scale when you are able to connect the connected. That means connect your whole park of buildings. Connect all of your plants together so that suddenly you can get a better picture of what you consume all over your company, find the better suppliers, the most competitive suppliers for all your factories, making sure also that you can bench your sites and bring the worst one to the level of the best one, and only that brings a new level of competitiveness in the company. Let's take here the example of ADNOC, which is another electro-intensive user. This is one of the biggest oil and gas companies in the world. ADNOC asked us to digitize the whole chain from the well to the ships, and making sure that if they had no ship ready to take the oil in the port, they wouldn't be drilling more at the origin of place. With that, they've already connected 100,000 assets on which they can drill from a control room, and they are moving on to 1 million. Enabling the digitization of the whole chain on the whole company. Another example is Saint-Gobain in the US, which had multiple factories that they needed to connect. They connected the energy system and the production system and managed to reduce their utility cost or their efficiency or improve their efficiency by 14%. What they are doing also is through analytics and software is to modulate the energy consumption during the time of the day. Another company that I'm very attached to is Schneider Electric. So again, when we speak about digitization, there are many companies out there that speak about digitization, but we are also a big industrial company. We have 200 factories, 100 distribution centers. We have 7 factories only in Spain, 1 big distribution center in Spain. And for us, we need to optimize that very global setup in the world and make sure it's performing to the highest level. What we've, of course, done is to push our factories to highest level of Industry 4.0 and connected them together, and with results that we are measuring. Every year we enter in a worldwide competition in terms of supply chain organized by Gartner. And in the past 5 years, thanks to digitization, we move up worldwide by more than 20 positions. We are today number 11 in the world in terms of supply chain. And in Europe, we have reached now the level 3, and this is inclusive of all supply chain, including the large e-commerce companies. So, and we want to keep progressing thanks to the integration of the whole supply chain. So that's about the 4 integration. Energy and automation, endpoint to shop floor, life cycle on all the scale of the company by integrating all your sites together into one repository. Now, as a conclusion, I would like to share 5 points with you. The first one is that when we speak about digital and when we speak about technology, it's actually never a question of technology. It's first a question of vertical, of business, of industry. And each industry is absolutely different. And as we engage with a number of customers around the world, I would say that each customer is different. So when we started our journey into digitization 15 years ago in Schneider, what we didn't see at the beginning is that we would have to recruit 20,000 people who are not technology R&D people, they are not IT people, but people who are just application people, people who do systems, people who do projects, people who know the business of customers. We don't want to do your business, we are just a technology company, but people who are ready and able to speak the language of the industry and applications we serve. The second point is that it's never, again, a question of technology. It's a question of benefits. So very often, the conversation starts with energy efficiency and productivity because we are all looking for more productivity and efficiency, but the collateral benefits are immediately reliability, safety of people, and I'll come back on that, on sustainability, of course. As soon as you are able to measure what you are doing, then you are able to respond of your sustainability. The third point is that there is a trend in the world of today to oppose digitization on people. We see it completely opposite, that digitization is here to empower people. Empower people in several places. First, augment their capability. We're going to speak, or you're going to see augmented reality in the next room. You're going to see systems which are telling people what to do in front of a system which has a problem. Personally, as the CEO of Schneider, the first thing I'm attached to, the most important thing is the safety of our customers and the safety of our people. And when digital is allowing us to guide people step by step into intervention, when it allows somebody to come in front of a problem and to know what is inside a dangerous electrical enclosure without opening, or to know what is happening in a dangerous machine without opening, I feel better. The second point is to support people. When you do simulation, when you do unified engineering, you are proposing options to people so that they can make more documented and better choice in a world, let's face it, which by nature is more complicated. And finally, digital is the ultimate place of collaboration, the place where, thanks to the cloud, because we share digital model, people can really collaborate better on. When we think about this new environment, there used to be places where utilities were coming on, contractors were coming in, panel builders, manufacturers were called to the rescue. Suddenly we can share common models that we can use together so that we can all participate to the better support of our customers. Fourth point I want to really emphasize is that Schneider is committed to accompany you. We saw Actiona before, but it's not the only company that we are working with all over the world. But we are committed because we are very multi-local to accompany you everywhere in the world. And the world from that point of view is today becoming more complicated. So when you open a newspaper today, they speak about trade war. I think we should speak less about trade war and we should speak more about tech war. On the fact that when we operate in certain environments, let's say China respect to the US, we are not operating at all in the same digital environments. So the people coming from electricity, we are used to that. I mean, there was UL in the US, IEC in Europe, CCC in China, Indian standards in India. We are able to follow you locally with local production, with local content, and we see the world as being more multi-local, and we are really attached to be the most local of global players wherever we go, in the physical world, in the electrical world, as well as the digital world. And finally, my last point is really about that this technical evolution, again, is opening new horizons for partnership and collaboration. Schneider, in our universe, has been the company working the most with partners, and we work in all directions with partners. It's about the partners with whom we work for integration of what we do, developers with whom we develop parts of software. It's about partners with whom we develop technology, and I'm going to be later on stage with Microsoft, with whom we develop early on our systems and with whom we keep, of course, developing even more systems. And it's about the systematic use of open standards. And we believe that the world of today is absolutely open and that no company is able to do everything, and that a great factor of success is to be able to collaborate every day. And when we say that, we are opening also officially in Barcelona what we call Exchange, and don't see Exchange as a technical platform. It's not at all this. It's a crossroad. It's a place where all the partners of Schneider are converging digitally. So industrialists, companies that are looking for a solution, integrators that put together solutions on the field, developers of software which have developed a part of software, and they can trade what they are doing and work together on solutions. So go there, discover Exchange, get on Exchange, and benefit from the whole ecosystem. Maybe, and that's a powerful tool for every small and medium company, because, well, smaller companies have difficulties to have an outer reach to other customers, but Exchange is a great way, especially in the digital space, to sell to new customers around the world. So that's about the 5 main points I wanted to do as we are going through that trip of energy transition and digital transition. Again, what we are discussing together, what we are building together, is to make sure that we empower everybody on Earth to make the most of their energy and resources, ensuring what we call at Schneider that life is on. Because as we work in 100 countries, we know that life, if you don't have the right access to energy, is absolutely miserable. And in the 21st century, access to digital is a human fundamental right that gives you access to education and the world business. So we are committed to bring that everywhere for everyone at every moment. But that finishes a very long speech, and as my colleagues would say, The best way to summarize your long speech is a good video, so I would like to call a video to summarize everything we said in 1 minute and 30 seconds. Thank you.